The galactic Q-tip has ventured ever closer to your lobes. And this is Audio Hoo-Mons, the
preeminent, the one, the leading
DS9 Q-tip podcast. No, the DS9 podcast, your favorite Audio Hoo-Mons. Hey, welcome back. I'm your host, Alex, with
Brian.
And you are joining us for the not the penultimate, it's the penultimate episode of Season 2 of our show, but it is for the ultimate episode of Season 2 for Deep Space Nine. That would be Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which the conceit for our podcast is pretty simple. You got Brian here, who was deployed in the military when this show was basically in first run syndication, and then you got Alex, that's me, and I was watching every episode and then every re-episode, and I was using my old antiquated VHS system and taping it and watching it, so I know a lot of the details, and he is just kind of being reintroduced to it. So you got two Trek fans, one is a DS9 convert or acolyte, and another who is happy to be brainwashed if the content is good enough. Brian, is that about right?
Sure, that covers more than covers.
Yeah, so, I went on and
yes,
on.
I'm glad to be here, and thoroughly enjoying watching, and I hope our interaction is allowing you to enjoy as well.
What I love about it, though, is that I'm not only enjoying it, it's I get to see it through your eyes, and I get to see things often, not always, but often, that I did not see previously, so it's pretty great. So, just to kind of recap, just to let everybody know who's a long-term fan of the Audio Hoo-Mons show, okay, we are closing in. This is the last episode recap. We don't really do full-fledged recaps of point by point, but we talk about the bigger themes of each episode on the show. And then next week, just so you know, our next plan is to do kind of a Season 2 look back, and Brian's going to select, is it top 3, top 5 episodes of the season?
We could do 3 if there's if you have a fourth or something, if you have some ties, then
I could
feel
drink
free
a fifth.
To go a little long. But that's, I think in the time allotted, I think that would be probably best for our interaction.
Because we like to get these to around 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's like my drive into work.
There you go.
Actually, my drive into work is like 40 minutes, but close enough.
So if it's a little longer, Brian's happy. If it's a little shorter, it's okay. You can just switch to, I don't know, Howard Stern or whatever you listen to.
NPR,
very good. Well, we got to spare you from that. Oh, I love NPR, but man, it can be dry at times.
At times.
Audio medicine. So we had a great season so far, and again, we'll kind of recap the season on our next episode, but I have to say it's a little bittersweet because I view the first 2 seasons of DS9 as kind of that introductory ground floor foundational
right. Priming the pump.
Very nice. Out of seven seasons, of episodes, I view the first 2 as priming the pump, setting the foundation.
Yeah, well, and stylistically, and we'll probably get into this in future kind of recappy episodes, but stylistically, it was much like The Next Generation.
Oh, you think so?
For the first two seasons. I mean, there were some story arcs, but there were a lot of kind of standalone. It was really kind of interaction, person to person,
like Tosk.
There was, there were. I think the characters were just learning about each other and trying to become friends. That kind of thing.
And I think the actors were subtly, by their performances, kind of starting to inject or interject their own interpretations of the characters into the writing process as well. I think you'll see that more and more. I think that you'll see that even more in season 3 and 4, and then I think by season 5, 6, 7, it's pretty well there, even though they introduced some changes for a lot of the characters throughout. So this episode, and by the way, we before we go into the episode, we should say, don't forget to whip out that smartphone of yours and do a memo and then email it to audiohoomox@gmail.com. And we want to hear, as several of our friends who are listeners have done. We want to hear your favorite episode of the entire series. We also don't mind hearing just your general thoughts about how the podcast is going, that sort of thing. Send that to us at audioumonks@gmail.com. And anybody who sends one, and by the way, we're going to do a drawing in another week or two. You could get a handsome Star Trek prize. We're not saying it's worth a ton of money or anything like that, but it's a handsome Star Trek prize just for you. So we have about 3 or 4 people in the hopper right now. We'd love to add more.
We do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then, while you're at it, while you have us on your mind and heart, if you feel led, please give us a review.
I love the Southern Baptist thing. Or you weren't a Baptist, were you? You were a what were you? You weren't a Baptist.
I was raised primarily in the Assemblies of God.
Oh, so, but I love the way you say if you feel led. Right?
So the old saying was, confess your sins and be Baptist because all have sinned and fallen short of the Assemblies of God. Sorry, they're a little.
No, I was raised Southern Baptist.
Southern evangelical humor there.
No, but I was raised Southern Baptist, so we just say, if you feel led or you feel so led, come on down and express your sins and bring somebody with you down here.
And
nobody loves your money like we do. There you go. All right, so
okay, so we digress. But if you feel led. We would love
Reviews
to have a review on the iTunes or wherever it is that you download your pods.
We got a couple of ideas. Now, don't forget, or don't think we've forgotten. We have a few ideas. We still want to do kind of a live YouTube thing, and we're thinking that, okay, so we go this week, and then next week we do kind of a wrap-up of Season 2. So I know I have been like saying, well, we'll be done for the year, and we'll just do a few special episodes. Well, Brian's like, no, dude, that's like 3 or 4 months. We're going to have to do Season 3. So we'll start on Season 3, but we want to do particularly around the holidays. So around Halloween, around Thanksgiving, and definitely around Hanukkah and Christmas, we will do special episodes. In fact, don't even count on an episode recap around December. I'm not doing one.
Yeah,
I want to do fun.
There's
stuff.
a lot going on too.
Yeah, I want to do fun stuff that we can knock out. That'll be like our favorite Trek episodes of the entire Trek oeuvre, favorite Trek movies, worst villains, best villains. Brian had a great idea for like best secondary characters or best character actors to appear on Star Trek and that kind of thing. So we're going to do fun stuff like that, and we want to hear. So if you do the audio, if you have some suggestions for that, send it to us and say, hey, look, I would love to hear, where Harris Yulin, who did Duet, where he ranks in the top 10 of the Audio Umox guys, where he ranks with you guys. That sort of thing would be fun. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is, as usual, I'm wrong. We're not going to be done. We're going to start Season 3 this year in 2019.
We will.
However, I'm just saying, because
we will take the liberty to take a few breaks.
Yes.
And do maybe some fun things. Fall
is my favorite time of year because Halloween is my favorite holiday. For me, like the week before Halloween is like a big deal because I'm leading up to it, and like I'm decorating my house and I'm doing a haunted house for the neighborhood kids in my backyard and all this stuff. And then Halloween happens, and then to me it's like, oh, you get like a 10-day break, and then you might as well be in Thanksgiving. And then after Thanksgiving, it's like it's time to party. It's December. It's Christmas, Hanukkah, all the holidays. So I just view the last month and a half of the year as not a lot going on, but that's not necessarily how you view it or everybody else views it, but it's just how I do. So that's kind of where I went with that. Can I give one more thing, and then we'll get to this thing?
Sure.
I'm not going to tell it to the end of the show. Brian's going to remind me, but we have kind of a crossover thing that is very important to me and to Brian, and it involves a show that dropped last week on a different podcast that is very important.
Just tell us.
Do you want me to? You want to do it now?
Let's try
I thought I'd save it for the end so people don't forget. All right.
Well, this way we can remind them at the end too.
Will you remind? Because you're so like I don't want to say anything nice about myself.
So on Alex's podcast, he has a podcast devoted to. It began based on writing, but has evolved into really creativity in general. Right. And this year he has been interviewing creative people across multiple types of work. So from public relations and advertising to acting to photography, and for tomorrow's
at this point it'll be last Thursday's.
Alex interviewed me, and I do on the side when I'm not doing DS9 podcasts. I develop products for the restaurant trade, the food service industry, and he interviewed me, and we talked about the creative process, and it was a fun interview. I had a great time, and Alex is a great interviewer, so we've and of course we have known each other for a long time, so the interplay was great, and so it was fun. And if you're interested at all in our discussion of the creative process, his podcast is called Mysterious Goings On.
Right, and there's going to be a link in the show notes directly to Brian's episode. And I'll just say this, and now everybody knows I love Brian. He's like a brother, and we've been friends for over 30 years.
Yeah.
But I mean, seriously, this may just well be my favorite. I texted you this the other day, so right? Don't even act like I'm making this up. I texted him the other day, I said, this may be my most fun, most enjoyable interview of the season. And like he said, I've interviewed some really killer guests, and a lot of them are very local to Kansas City, but they still have a universal appeal. But in the past, I've interviewed a bank robber, a Grammy-balloted musician. I mean, I've interviewed some serious heavyweights, but Brian's is just so exciting because he's so freaking good at what he does. And anyway, I'm going to stop hyping it because some of you might listen and go, well, there's not even a mention of Star Trek in here.
Star Trek stuff.
But it's a good interview. So, hey, thanks for telling me. All right, well, at the end, though, Brian will remind you. But Mysterious Goings On and the links in the show notes, okay? But until then, hey, we need to talk about some Jem'Hadar, and I'll just tell you, I'll just get us going on that. So on a camping trip in the Gamma Quadrant, Sisko, Jake, Nog, and Quark encounter the ruthless soldiers of the Dominion, the Jem'Hadar. What'd you think of this one there, buddy? So you got...
Well, I mean, it had some really great stuff, and it had some real crap, I think, personally.
Whoa!
Okay, so...
Let's hear the crap!
And I know you love this episode, so I don't want to, kind of rain on your parade too much.
Because rewatching it, I got to admit, it didn't hold up as well.
Okay, so it started out with a really nice kind of scene, father-son scene with with Ben and Jake, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm finally going to get to spend some quality time with my son, reconnect. He's he's a teenager now, and we're going to spend some time together. And then Jake comes in with his sob story about Nog, and he weasels his buddy in on this father-son trip, and then lo and behold, to try and ingratiate himself to Sisko, Quark figures out how to, or he basically just shows up on the ship, and he's going on. As well.
I have friends who I love, and when we have a dinner party or something, right? Well, their next door neighbors are other friends who we love, but we don't always want to invite them just because we invited them, if that makes sense, right?
Yes.
But of course, with Sisko, it's not even that. I didn't want to invite anybody. I wanted to spend time with my son, and the least of which I want to invite would be the freaking obnoxious Quark.
Right. Yeah. So this is where it came off the rails a little bit for me. Well, before I go there, there's something I wanted to say before I forget, because we'll lose sight of it. Quark's discussion of how xenophobic humans are towards
you
Ferengi.
Didn't you thought that was...
I thought that was an important point that just kind of got lost in the episode.
No, because he was like, would you let your son marry a Ferengi? I never thought of it, and it was very interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was interesting, but then it turns into it's like a Gilligan's Island episode to me.
You think it went a little too dumb?
Quark is the millionaire, and Yeah,
So he's Thurston Howell, the
he's Thurston Howell the
Ferengi.
third, and there he is. He's got salve on his ears, and
Okay,
it's
it's a
just such
little
a ball bag.
okay.
And
It's a little dumb.
I didn't think that episode needed that kind of comic reliefy, and I thought it after they had worked to make Quark a very relatable character, they just knocked him down 3 pegs.
Well, they
because
went
he's
back
now
to the
this
old
whiny ball bag.
comic relief thing,
Right?
But
yeah.
they try to. This is an Ira Stephen Bear episode, by the way. He wrote this one, and Ira does lean a little on this every now and then, I think.
Yeah, and then you got Nog, who's at this time, I don't know how his character evolves, but at this time, he just comes across as pretty annoying. Even the way he just whines every time things go wrong is annoying, and so that is the part that just killed it for me. Okay, now setting that aside,
got it.
There's some great stuff in this.
Oh, okay.
So not the least of which, and I saw a blogger brought this point up, is we were only one episode after the finale of TNG, and no sooner does that happen than the same class as a Galaxy class starship is blown to smithereens.
The Odyssey is destroyed by the Dominion.
Yeah, and so that was the metaphor, the allegory, the metaphor of that towards as being forget
over
the next generation shit. This is something.
This is our
new
world. And by the way, our villains are way effing worse than your stupid Borg.
And yes, a lot scarier and more complex. So,
well, do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with that?
No, not at all.
Okay, good, because I don't either. Yeah,
I thought that was in
because the Borg I thought had been
line in the sand. Yeah.
I thought the Borg had been emasculated or what? Okay. I just used a word that was. I thought the Borg had been neutered or whatever. God, I'm using the same word. I thought the Borg. Okay, sorry, folks. I'm doing the best I can with the vocabulary that a man in my age has. I thought the Borg had been so muted as a villain by that point that when the Jem'Hadar show up, I'm remembering back, dude. And see, this is different. I'm remembering back to an Alex who was almost half my age, and I found them very scary.
Oh yeah,
they were fearsome looking and scary, and the way they, like when the one guy just walks out of the containment beam in Ops.
Oh yeah,
and he was just like, "I got this shit, and you people need to understand," and I was just like, "Whoa!" So I'm with you, but I gotta say, I watched it again today.
Mm-hmm.
I when I saw the Odyssey get blown up under Captain Keogh, who arrogant as he may have been, competent captain to be sure, I got chills. I looked at my arm. I had chill bumps when the Odyssey got waxed by the Dominion dudes, by the Jem'Hadar, man. Did that move you at all when you saw that? Or
yeah. Well, I mean, what's the complement of a ship that size? 400?
No. It's over 1,000 families, the whole thing. But if you remember, there's a line where Jadzia says, "Captain Keogh, we will off on board onto DS9 non-essential personnel from the Odyssey," which I thought was a nice bit they did prior to, because the writers are signaling something right there. It's like, we're going into battle, and they're going to get all the basically it's the husbands, wives, children of personnel who are critical to the ship getting off. So probably I would assume 400 or 500 people probably, at that point were left. But just the idea, and I like the idea though of, because when you watch it and you see the Odysseys there at the pylon before everything goes down, you're like, okay, that's not the Enterprise. Because when you saw the previews of it the week before, which I did, you were thinking, you saw the Odyssey get blown up, basically. You're like, oh shit, it's Picard, it's the Enterprise. What?
Right. Yeah.
And or is it like the Yamato, another Galaxy class that got blown up in the TNG? Well, but even so, you're watching it. So I remember watching it and going, okay, wait a minute. Okay, some shiz is going down in the Gamma. But better look out. We got a Galaxy class ship here. This is not your little little runabout.
Oh, your runabouts. Yeah.
This is the real deal, folks. Throw it all at us, right? Because that's how I felt. And then, of course, what happens? They get in there, and we're talking less than 5 minutes. That ship is besieged and gone.
Oh yeah, and it's trying to get away, and
the way it limps away, and then that lucky shot where the Jem'Hadar hits it, and then it peels off. I think
the Jem'Hadar ship crashed into it.
No. It's a lucky shot, but if you look at the shot, it crashed into the superstructure, which is hugely damaging. The reason the Odyssey blew up right away, though, was because a portion of the Jem'Hadar ship, once it hit, flung itself off and hit the cell, the warp nacelle.
Oh, okay.
If you look at it, if you watch it carefully, now they're limping away. I think their starboard nacelle is like leaking plasma, and they're limping away, right? And then Kira's like, "Oh crap, we got a Jem'Hadar guy going." It's like, all right, let's intercept. They try their best. It doesn't happen. Jem'Hadar hits it like in the neck of the ship, but then a piece flies off from that neck and hits their nacelle, and that's it. It sets off a chain reaction. That's what killed him. The ship could have tolerated that hit. It would have been crippled and not been able to go anywhere. But what set it off and just made it into a billion pieces was that. So that to me, and I thought the reactions were good from everybody. I thought those were some of the strongest moments of this episode.
Yeah, and for me, talking about the introducing the Jem'Hadar, introducing the Dominion,
the Vorta,
the complexity. You mentioned the Borg. The Borg are really very traditional, one-dimensional bad guys.
Yeah, and they had to like spruce them up for the movies. They had to make like a Borg queen to make it interesting.
Right.
Which actually kind of killed the actual true concept of the Borg, by the way. But go ahead.
Yes, but here we have this kind of multi-level evil organization, if you will, where you have the Vorta, who seem to be kind of the brains. You've got these Jem'Hadar appearing now, which are the brawn, and then you still have this secret ruling class, the founders that have not yet been introduced, and it I immedially I see just layer after layer. It's going from one of those side salad with iceberg lettuce to to something nice and complex with some field greens and some goat cheese and maybe some beet.
Oh my God!
Sorry.
Do you work in the restaurant industry? So this is interesting. You bring this up. So when they're talking about the Dominion, Robert Wolf explained, writer, the businessmen or the Vorta, they were the negotiators, the friendly guys who show up with the carrot. They're like, hey, we're your friends. Have some phaser rifles or space travel, whatever the hell you want. We'll arrange it, and all you have to do is owe us. Then, if you don't toe the line, they kick your ass with the Jem'Hadar. Those are your leg breakers, right? And we still at this point don't know who the Dominion actually is or what or So you nailed that.
Founders, yeah.
And they made some mistakes with it. I mean, like for example, Eris the Vorta, she has like this weird telekinetic power that is never seen again. Where she kind of like looks like she's kind of farting or something, and then she hits
she's throwing little things out of her chest or whatever, and
I'm kind of glad that
kind of X-Men, very Avengers-ish or something. That was strange, but and
it was. I think it was too much power to give them anyway, so I was kind of glad. So that was never touched on again, but that jumped right out at me because I was like, well, why didn't Wei-Yun, who we haven't met yet, do that? But he never was.
So wrapping up kind of the main plot points of the episode. So, I mean, Jake and Nog figure out how to get the runabout running by disconnecting every USB drive in there and get saved. And then you've got...
They felt led to be saved. So.
And then you've got Ben and Quark with the help of that Vorta, figure out how to get out. But asked a lot more questions than it answered. I guess I'll leave it there. So they're able to sneak back through the wormhole back to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
But Ben's going to have a